Hello and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another video of me making things. So this project has been on my mind for quite a while, and I decided to start it today before I leave for another city for a few days, and I shall continue it afterwards, but I was just dying to start it now. So what I will be making is a vest. Now I was trying to find some inspiration from Pinterest, and these are my inspiration pictures that I found. So I want to make a vest that wouldn't be so closed up, it would be more like this picture. And when I was shopping fabrics, not specifically for this project but overall, I saw this beautiful green velvet, like stripy velvet fabric, and I immediately thought that would make a beautiful vest. And since then I've been wanting to make a vest, and that's what I'm going to do today. Typical, I don't have any patterns, so we're gonna have to come up with our own patterns. God knows how, but we shall try, and I guess we'll see if it turns out to be a vest or something resembling a vest, but you know, we'll see. Also, I am enjoying tea. It's not too hot anymore, so I can drink tea. It's amazing. Oh, this is too hot though. I'm gonna show you the fabric. So it's this one. There isn't too much of it, but I'm positive there's enough for a vest. So beautiful green stripy velvet. And I think if I can manage this project, it'll turn out pretty great. I love the fabric, I love the color. So let's start the planning process. So this is kind of what I'm thinking about. I want these triangular shapes here, and I want the vest to end where my waist hits, so it's a shorter vest. Definitely don't want it to go over my hips. It will overlap in the middle, and the buttons, I guess we'll see how many buttons I need. I actually don't have any buttons at the moment, so I'm just going to have to buy those. We need to make a few pieces, I think. So here would have to be a seam, so the side seams will have to be there. The bust area is going to be a problem as always when making tops, so I don't know if I want, I was looking at the pictures and some have a dot like right here and most have it like right here, so I think I want to make the dart here so that it ends kind of before the triangles. I think that will make the most sense. And from the back, just very basic looking from the back. I don't think I want anything. I think there will be a center seam. I don't know, I'm looking at the pictures, but there's very few from the back. Do they have, because I know some of them have like this tightening thing here. I'm not sure how I'd manage that exactly. Okay, here's one picture from behind and it doesn't have that. I don't want to make it look too much like a man's vest, like I want to have it look feminine enough. So I think we're going to scrap that and just make a center seam, and then the side seams are still there. So what we would need for this is then the back piece that would look something like this. Then we would need the front piece that would look probably something I don't know how the triangle thingy is made. Something like that, maybe, I don't know. Do I need anything else? This is just 4 pieces. That doesn't sound too bad. In theory, this sounds doable, but I guess we'll see. So what I'm going to do now is go to the dress form. Alright, I have my pins, a pencil, a pen, and then scissors. And then I just have some sheet fabric. I think this has been a sleeve before. So this is my pattern making process, I guess. It's a pain in the ass and it doesn't always work. I wish I had some proper patterns, but oh well, I guess. I have absolutely no idea how to make this work, so that's always a good sign. If I just smooth out the boob and then do this. If I had no boobs, this would be like so much easier. Like so maybe like somewhere here. And then I don't know. I guess that looks decent enough, but this is, I mean, it's just always a mystery like this. So these are just some old sheets that I found from a second-hand shop that I'm using as pattern paper, basically. It just forms a lot nicer around my beautiful model here than paper would, so I just find it easier drafting patterns with fabric rather than paper. I think I want to try to cut this as well. This is basically how I've made patterns for everything that I've made, because I have patterns for nothing. But like, this could work. It has potential, at least. I'm just going to make this just a bit shorter because we do want the seams here. Alright, so I think that's the front piece of this. So we have the side seam here, the front button pieces, and then the dart here. I'm afraid this will be pointy, so I guess we're going to figure something out when we cut it out of the real fabric, because that's just how I roll. And then we need to figure out the back panel as well, and then just cut 2 of those out. Like, this is turning out to be easier than I thought. Of course, I'm saying this way too early, but I somehow thought this would be more pieces to sew together, but it's just 4. And just smooth it out from the back. I love doing the back piece because we don't have to worry about the bust. And the armhole. And that's then pretty much that, I guess. We're actually doing alright. Wait, I didn't make the triangular thing in the front. I need to make that. And then if I cut this out, I think that could work. Firstly, I placed my patterns on the fabric, and I tried to use as little fabric as possible, so I had to use every single brain cell to try to fit them nicely on this piece of fabric. It took a few tries, but you know, eventually we got there. Then I traced the patterns with some chalk onto the dark fabric, just to know where to pin later on. When I was done cutting them, I took my scissors and cut them out, leaving a centimeter or 2 for seam allowance. Because the fabric was folded, I immediately got 4 pieces to work with, so I didn't have to repeat the process on this fabric. But then I remembered I'd probably have to do a lining for the vest, so I picked out a nice thick lining fabric and cut out the exact shapes of the outer fabric from the lining fabric. So now I had 8 pieces in total. And that was just my dog presenting his beautiful howling skills as he heard an ambulance drive by. So once everything was cut, I then pinned the bust dart together to see if it actually looked like I hoped it would. It turned out okay, it's just a bit pointy at the moment, but we'll fix it later, so it's fine. I also pinned the side seams and then sewed everything I had pinned. And then when the first few seams were sewn together, I could finally try on what I've made so far. It was otherwise okay, it was just a bit too big, so I fixed that by sewing again the seams that I had just sewn, but I just sewed again just a bit inwards from the point I had sewn previously, just to make it a bit smaller. So after trying it again, it was actually pretty much perfect, except for the pointy boobs, of course. Yeah, we're gonna have to fix that. And then I sewed the exactly same things for the green outer fabric. And then I tried on that as well. It fit actually very nicely, and yes, it was just a great place to start. I was very happy with it. So of course there still was the problem of the pointy boob, but this time I was determined to fix that. So I took a pin and pinned the dart into kind of a T shape, and that actually fixed the problem quite nicely. I then sewed that into place and then trimmed all the seam allowances on the inside on both this and the lining fabric, and then zigzagged every edge that I had just cut, just to make sure that they don't fray.
So, this is where I got to today. I'm very happy about this. I think it fits actually super nicely, both me and my model here. And it just looks really flattering, and I'm so glad. Like, I did not believe it would actually turn out this nice. I absolutely love the fabric on this, like it's so beautiful. I managed to match the patterns perfectly to the stripes, and it just looks amazing. Like, they go nicely here, they go nicely vertically here. It's just, I'm so proud of this. I can't wait to continue this, but till then.
So a few days later I got back home and continued this process by pinning the lining and the outer fabric right sides together and then sewing that into place. Here I am just checking that I'm pinning where the chalk drawn line on the green fabric is. I pinned all the sides together apart from the bottom, and then later realized that I should not have pinned quite so much.
For example, the top pieces of the straps should have been left open. You will see me realizing that a bit later on. But I have everything pinned and then I just sewed that together. And when everything was sewn together, I was struggling to turn it right side out. Yes, this was me kind of beginning to suspect that something must maybe wrong. I took my Harry Potter wand and tried using that as an aid to stick into the longer pieces that I could not get into and turn them right side out. I placed it on my mannequin, and here you will start to see me realize that I should have in fact left those endings open, because now they are too short and can't be attached. So yes. Before ripping those apart, I decided to see if the lining was okay from everywhere else, and decided it was okay from pretty much nowhere. I tried sticking it out a bit more and just trying to make it work. It really wasn't that bad, but I thought you shouldn't be seeing any lining at this point, so I put on something to watch, took my seam ripper and started ripping apart firstly the edges of the straps, and then afterwards I realized I probably have to take apart everything to try and attach the lining the right way, whatever that meant. I was determined to figure that out, and so I just took apart everything.
Hello again. It's been a while. Actually, I finished quite a bit of this off camera because I was just so frustrated with the lining. I eventually got it done. Like, it has, well, it's not done, it's nowhere near done, but I figured out a way to attach the lining, which was the first way that I tried. You just put the right sides together and sewed it, but I was just a bit too suspicious about the lumps, because this does not look neat in every place, so I thought I must have done it wrong. But no, that's how you do it. At least it's what worked for me, and now I just have to sew a stitch along the edge just to make it sure that the lining doesn't show up like this, so that you can only see the velvet. I attached it 3 times, which means that I completely had to rip it out twice. Fortunately, I am getting kind of good at seam ripping with the seam ripper, so it didn't take that long. But what I will do now is just make the stitch, and then I have to trim the seam allowances everywhere, basically. Inside it has like way too much, so I'm going to cut that.
So this is me doing exactly that. I'm trimming the seam allowances and then zigzagging the edges as one does. So here's a nice, clean, zigzagged edge. Then it was time to make the stitch that would hold in the lining and prevent it from being seen from the outside. This was done by making sure that the seam allowances were on the lining side. It's what I'm doing right now there, checking that the seam allowances are in fact on the side that I'm sewing on. So I just sewed everywhere, and then I found a problem because I couldn't sew up the tube without sewing the other side, so I had to stop there and then sew the rest of it by hand. So this is me continuing where the machine left off and doing the rest by hand. So this is a very small stitch, that's very close to the seam where the white and the green meet, and it seems like such a small thing to make, but it made a huge difference. It really prevented the lining from showing when you're wearing the vest, and that's huge. So here's the machine stitch versus my hand stitches, both doing the same thing, just mine looking a bit more wonky. But yeah, this is both sides done, and I did these on all 4 straps. And then it was time for the bottom edge. I decided to make this by folding the lining and the outer fabric in together like that. First I of course zigzagged them and pinned everything nicely into place, and I ran into a bit of a problem with the corner, but eventually decided to fold it in like this and then hand sew that into place first. And once the corner was hand sewn in and was nice and secure, I started hand sewing the lining onto the outer fabric by slip stitching. I decided this because it's a very invisible, nice stitch, and you couldn't really tell that there even was a stitch either from the outside or the inside, because I was very careful to only catch the folded bit and not the fabric underneath. After that, I used the same exact sewing method to stitch the strap seam allowances into place, just to make them look nicer. And these are those, all folded in and looking neat. Then again, using the same technique, I sewed together the front panels, which will have the buttons in a bit.
So it's ready now, apart from the buttons and buttonholes, which I'm also not sure how to make, but we'll figure it out. It's very snug and nice, and I think it looks pretty darn good. The lining doesn't show, I don't think, from anywhere. I'm very proud of this. Looks super cute. Very hobbity, the whole vest. And it does need still buttons. I'll be putting the buttons on the left side, or here, as you may see, the right side, but it is the left side. And I'm not sure how many I need. I have 8 in total, so I can't put more than that. But I think 7 might actually be perfect. So I think that's what that's going to look like. And then I'm going to have to make 7 buttonholes.
This is me attempting to do math to count how far apart each button would have to be. I was aiming to do 7 buttons but miscalculated, so I ended up with 8 buttons, which actually turned out pretty nicely. Like, I think that probably was better than 7 anyways, but still a bit well, I can't say surprised, but a bit disappointed in myself for not counting that right. Here I'm just making sure that these are in fact in the same place, drawing the places for the buttonholes on the other side, and then sewing the buttons in place. Here I am just calculating how wide my buttonholes would have to be. The buttons were 1.5 centimeters wide, so I decided to make my buttonholes that wide as well. I'm just marking the starting and ending point of the hole and making that for every single one of the buttonhole places. When I'm sure that my buttonhole will in fact be in the right place, I take out my scissors and make a hole between my markers. I had to take out my bigger scissors as well because my smaller ones just did not have enough oomph to cut through, I think, 4 fabrics. I just make sure that the button fits through before taking out my needle and thread. And after watching Bernadette Banner's how to sew a buttonhole by hand video, I was ready to make buttonholes. Basically, you just make many knots on the cut edge, all around the hole, and that should secure the use and not let it fray. At least so far it's been working. I haven't seen any fraying. I was sure to make enough knots that the white fabric couldn't be seen through, and these seem to be working perfectly fine. And this is the final product. I think it turned out amazing. It's such a nice little hobbity vest that looks feminine enough, and it's just exactly what I wanted. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you feel like sticking around. I would love to have you here, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye!